The sun had barely started its slow crawl over the horizon when Jeremiah Cole, one of the wealthiest cattle owners in the state, rode his horse through the misty fields of his sprawling ranch. He had inherited the land from his father, who had built the empire from nothing, and Jeremiah ran it with the same ruthless efficiency. But that morning something felt off. The fields, usually filled with the gentle lowing of cattle and the rustle of grass in the wind, were eerily silent. As he guided his horse along the familiar dirt path, Jeremiah noticed a small figure in the distance, crouched near the edge of the forest that bordered his ranch. At first he thought it was a child wandering too far from the nearby town, but as he drew closer he realized something more alarming. The girl looked dirty, thin and frightened, her clothes torn and her hair matted. Jeremiah's heart, though hardened by years of business deals and ruthless negotiations, skipped a beat. He slowed his horse and called out softly, "Hey, are you all right?" The girl flinched, her eyes wide with terror, darting toward the shadows of the trees. But she was too weak to run far, and within moments Jeremiah was able to reach her. She collapsed into his arms, shivering violently. Who are you?" he asked gently. She shook her head, unable to speak. Jeremiah's instincts told him she had been alone for a long time. Maybe days, maybe weeks. The evidence was clear. The scratches on her arms, the dirt under her nails, the hollow look in her eyes that spoke of hunger and fear. Without hesitation, Jeremiah lifted her carefully onto his horse. She was light, almost fragile, like a bird with broken wings. As he rode back toward the ranch house, he couldn't help but glance at her small, trembling form. Something inside him shifted, a protective instinct, ancient and primal he hadn't felt in years. By the time they reached the main house, word had already spread. Ranch workers who had been tending the cattle stopped in their tracks, staring in disbelief at the scene. The billionaire rancher, usually unflappable, carrying a barely conscious girl into his home. Whispers rippled through the staff. Who was she? Where did she come from? Jeremiah laid her on a soft couch in the sunroom, wrapped her in a warm blanket, and fetched water and food. She took only tiny sips, and her hands shook violently as she held the cup. He watched her carefully, noting every movement, every hesitation. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but also something else, a flicker of hope. Hours passed, and still the girl did not speak. Jeremiah tried again, gently, coaxingly. It's okay. You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you. Slowly, as if testing the words, she whispered, I don't have anywhere to go. That sentence hit Jeremiah like a thunderclap. The child, whoever she was, had been alone in the world, surviving in the wild, afraid and abandoned. He could feel the anger rising in him, not at the girl, but at the cruel world that had left her to fend for herself. Over the next few days, Jeremiah did something no one expected. He called the local authorities to report a missing child. But he didn't just leave it at that. He began investigating quietly, using his resources to track down anyone who might have known her or cared for her. Nothing. No leads. No family, no past. It was as if she had appeared out of nowhere, a ghost of some tragic tale no one had lived to tell. During this time, the girl, whom Jeremiah had started calling Lily, slowly began to open up. At first, it was only gestures, a small smile when she saw the cows, laughter at the way the horses nuzzled her hand, but soon she began to speak in broken sentences. Her story was heartbreaking. She had been running from someone, she didn't say who. She had been left to survive on her own after losing her family. Her words painted a world of fear, but also resilience. Jeremiah listened silently, letting her talk while his mind worked tirelessly. The thought of sending her to an orphanage crossed his mind, but he quickly dismissed it. No, he couldn't do that, not after everything she had endured. He had the means, the power, and the responsibility now. He would protect her himself. The townspeople, however, were shocked when they began to notice changes in Jeremiah. The stoic, reserved cattle owner had become different. He was no longer only the man who counted his profits and oversaw his land. He was spending hours teaching Lily about the ranch, showing her how to care for animals, sharing meals, even reading stories by the fireplace. Slowly, the gossip in town turned to whispers of admiration. But not everyone was happy. There were those who resented the change, the local authorities suspicious of his actions, neighbors whispering that a man of his wealth shouldn't get involved with someone he didn't know, yet Jeremiah ignored it all. His focus was Lily. One afternoon, as they walked along the edge of the pasture, Lily paused and looked at him seriously. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Jeremiah stopped and knelt to her level. "Because it's the right thing to do. And because, I don't know, you remind me of someone I once knew, someone I lost long ago." His voice cracked slightly, betraying the emotions he usually kept buried. Lily reached for his hand, the smallest gesture bridging the gap between fear and trust. It was in that moment that Jeremiah made a decision that would shock the town even more. He officially adopted her. The legal process was quick, thanks to his resources, but the announcement was enough to send shockwaves. The townspeople could hardly believe it. A billionaire rancher, known for his stoic demeanor and ruthless business deals, taking in a lost, abandoned girl and claiming her as his own. But Jeremiah didn't care about the gossip. Lily's laughter in the halls of his mansion, her excitement as she rode her first horse alone, her tears of joy when she finally felt safe, it was worth more than all the land, money, or cattle in the world. And then came the day when the real test of their bond arrived. A stranger appeared at the ranch asking questions, looking for Lily. The girl froze, fear gripping her again. Jeremiah stepped forward, calm but imposing. "She's under my protection," he said firmly. "And you will leave now, or you'll have to deal with me." The stranger sneered, underestimating him. But Jeremiah's presence was commanding, unyielding. The man left without another word, and Lily realized for the first time that she was truly safe. Months passed. Lily flourished under Jeremiah's care. She attended school, learned to ride, and slowly let go of the fears that had haunted her for so long. Jeremiah watched her grow, proud and protective. And for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't thought possible, complete fulfillment. The town, once shocked, slowly came to respect the choice he had made. They saw a new side of Jeremiah, a man capable of compassion, bravery, and unwavering loyalty. And though many still whispered in disbelief, Lily didn't care. She had a home now, a family, and a man who had chosen her when no one else would. And Jeremiah, he realized that in finding Lily, he had also found something he had lost long ago, a reason to believe in hope, in love, and in the extraordinary bonds that can form between people who seem worlds apart. The fields of his ranch, once silent and lonely, now rang with laughter and life. The horses galloped freely. The cattle roamed peacefully, and Lily, the girl who had once been lost and abandoned, had found a place where she belonged. And in that quiet, unassuming moment, Jeremiah knew something important. Sometimes, the most powerful wealth isn't measured in land or money. It's measured in the lives you touch and the hearts you protect. The town would talk about it for years. How the richest man in the county had taken in a lost girl and changed her world forever. How he had defied expectations, broken through barriers, and chosen humanity over indifference. And though people could never truly understand the depth of what had happened, one thing was clear: the bond between Jeremiah and Lily was unshakable, unbreakable, and, in its own way, legendary. No one would forget the day the wealthy cattle owner found a lost girl in his fields and did the unimaginable. And neither would they forget the joy, hope, and love that grew in its wake. Because some stories, no matter how shocking, have endings that warm the heart and remind everyone that even in a world full of hardship, miracles happen, sometimes in the most unexpected places.